Welcome to the Business Spotlight podcast. My name is Kay Cote, and I'm your host for today's episode. And today on the show, I have Tony King, owner of Personal Financial Strategy, as my guest. We're going to be learning about his business, his journey to business ownership, best practices, and some challenges that he's faced to give you that inside look to what it's like to own and operate a business. Well, welcome, Tony. It's great to meet you. Thanks for being on the show.
It's great to be here, Kay. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Well, before we dive into all things business, feel free to share a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am an entrepreneur, and in fact, I'm a solopreneur. I founded this company 4 years ago, and what personal financial strategy does is it applies business accounting and cash flow techniques to personal finance. I come from that world. I come from uh, the world of consulting and specifically consulting healthcare systems and helping them straighten out their finances um, in certain departments within a healthcare system. And so I just took a lot of the principles that I applied in my previous occupation and formed them to help people with their personal finances.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm very excited to dive into this conversation and thank you for sharing about that. So, when did you make that big leap from uh, being a consultant for a company into owning your own business?
Well, it happened in 2020, and it happened by accident. Well, or by uh, it wasn't on purpose. Put it that way. I, uh, as I mentioned, my former company, the consulting business, was engaged with healthcare systems, and if you remember back to 2020, all of our clients, healthcare systems, hospital systems, they were issued a lot of directives by the federal government to start expanding their capacity at hospitals to make room for the onslaught of COVID patients they were expected to house at the time. Well, as we all know now, um, that onslaught of COVID patients only happened in certain places in the United States. But those edicts from the federal government were issued to all hospital systems across the country. And so they had to cease a lot of their profitable operations. So that left my company a little high and dry because that's what we helped them manage was their profitable operations. Um, and so we started getting uh, calls from our clients saying, we're not going to be able to pay you this month because of all the changes they're having to make to their infrastructure to accommodate COVID patients. And that it just kept happening again and again and again. And so, uh, at a certain point, specifically March of 2020, our private equity investors in our company started to get a little twitchy about our cash flow, and so we got a call one day that we had to take about 1.2 million out of our expense operations. Well, if you weren't on a day-to-day basis interfacing with clients at the time, that meant that your job went away. And in fact, my job went away. It was felt pretty negative at the time because I was one of the building blocks to form that company in 2011, and we had grown from I think I was employee number 28, and we had grown by 2020. We had grown to 350 employees, and but my layer of responsibility was completely uh, cut in March of 2020. So, like I said, it felt pretty negative at the time, but it gave me the opportunity then to decide what I wanted to be when I grew up. And
I
what I
love that.
wanted to do, I had already started helping some friends and family members with their personal finances by applying some of these accounting techniques. And so I just decided that I wanted to form a company, my own company, and extend that help to others at that time. So that we launched Personal Financial Strategy in the fall, actually just in the beginning of 2021.
Oh, wow. Well, that sounds like it was quite the pivot, and now you're seeing fruits of your labor coming in new ways. And so,
Yeah, yeah.
how is the company now? Like, you're currently solopreneuring. Are you planning on building out a leadership team or bringing on employees with this? Like, what's kind of your goal looking like around that in the next, say, 3 to 5 years?
Well, it's all dependent on workload and volume, but we are starting to gain clients at a pretty rapid rate, and it's going to, when the company, when I'm unable to service clients competently, that's when I'm going to expand in employees and duplicate myself. I do work with virtual assistants. I have two of those, and um, but as the company grows, we will grow in number of employees and expand accordingly.
Oh, wonderful. Now, looking at your current client base, looking at the marketing around that, what's your current marketing structure to start growing your client base?
We're really focused, and we're focused on one client acquisition strategy, and that is education through webinars. So we do at least one webinar a month on personal finance, and we invite a lot of people to our webinars, and a few of them show up. I shouldn't say a few. We had 400 in our last webinar. Well, they didn't all attend. 400 registered in our last webinar, and about 25% of those actually attended. And so we explain in the webinar, we explain our approach to personal finance and then offer our coaching services at the end. And that's how we convert clients.
Oh, wonderful. So now looking at um, your structure for once you have those potential clients come through your webinar, what are your next steps? How are you turning those leads into clients?
Well, during the webinar, we kind of methodically um, march through highlighting the need first, or the problem, if you will. And then we'll dive into a use case and kind of show everyone in the webinar one of our clients' successes in aligning with us, where they came from. And, I'm an old project manager. That's what I did for the consulting company. And project managers take things from current state to desired state. And that's all I do with clients now is I take their personal finances from current state to desired state. And so we walk everybody through a use case, and we try and make it as demographically specific as possible. I'll explain that. Like these 400 registrants that we had, they were all realtors. And realtors have some pretty unique financial challenges. Namely, their income is really varied throughout the year. And that's a problem for a lot of realtors because compensation comes a lot in the end of spring and beginning of summer, a little bit in the fall, and then it goes into a lull as you go through the rest of the year. And so they they need help in normalizing their day to day, month to month living expenses so that they can make those rich months um, uh, last throughout the kind of skinny months, if you will. And so that's how specific we get in our webinars. When we have 400 realtors in the room in the webinar, that's what we talk about, is how to normalize your month to month expenses. And we have a little software tool that we use and recommend. And actually, our webinars are instructional. People, um, registrants can just take notes on how we do it, and they can go do it themselves. But we think the real value that we bring is our coaching services, where we will set up the software for them and then help coach them through however long they want us. We're a subscription service, so we're only compensated for the amount of months that you would like us to help you do your personal finances. So so far though, we've only had 2 clients graduate our program because I think most people, once they get some assistance in that area of their life, they like it, and we're very affordable. So they've just been keeping us around.
Oh, that's great. And so now I kind of want to look at, we'd love to share the transparency of being a business owner because it has such challenges. So what is one thing that you're currently challenged with it could be scaling, it could be like anything, any aspect of your business. What's one thing that you feel like you are kind of like going through it?
So, well, I think that's it. I think that scaling is our biggest challenge right now. Our current system, the webinar system I outlined, it has a certain production. So what we're looking at is it's very predictable. So we just want to duplicate it, and we want to do it more rapidly. So add some velocity to what we're doing. So we've been doing about 1 to 2 webinars a month. So now we're trying to figure out how we can do 2 to 4 webinars a month, maybe one a week. And then we're also we're doing a lot of research into what walk of life do our services hold the most value. I just mentioned one, realtors, but we're looking at other kind of profiles that we think um, we can leverage our value in to the highest level.
Definitely. So what specifically would you say with scaling and growing is it that you're challenged with? Is it systemizing, or is it just like finding the time to do extra webinars? Some, or like kind of walk me through that.
Well, um, time is one challenge. Yes, we need, but we've been doing this webinar focused marketing outreach for 18 months or so. Took us a while to get there, but once we got there, and we've been refining and refining and refining, because it's always a matter of um, conversion rate. I mean, we have a call to action towards the end of the webinar that is a simple call to action. It's just to book an appointment, a one-on-one appointment with me. And so that's how we track our success, our webinar success. And so the webinar itself, the content has been evolving over the last 18 months. We think we've got it down pretty well now. And so now it's becoming the challenge is replicating for different avatars. And I'll give you an example. We're looking at reaching out to teachers next. They also have a bit of an uneven pay scale, pay rate. Some of them take year-long pays, and so it's not an issue. But they're all um, struggling with the amount of compensation. Teachers are probably the most underpaid profession that we've come across in our experience. And so we think we can help them kind of model their monthly expenses to more accurately fit what they are compensated, and still leaving room for savings and investment. So that's our next step. I think we're going to go into the teacher world and try and come up with a great webinar for them.
Yeah, wow, that sounds great. I like that you're expanding. I think that's a golden nugget of this conversation is just like how to get the most out of what you offer to reach more potential clients. I think that's very important. And looking at, let's take it into your future. I know we briefly touched on it, but where do you see the company at in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, that's a little difficult to answer at this point. We do have goals, um, uh, and hopefully, uh, our goals are in the next. I don't do 5 year goals, but I do have a 2 year goal. Maybe it's a little short of what you're looking for, but our 2 year goal would be to be at that point that we talked about earlier, where I'm going to need to add staff in order to service clients well enough. And we think we have a pretty good handle on the number of clients that I can handle. So we have a pretty good handle on. We're just kind of counting as we go up, and we're also adjusting. Sometimes I think I have more time than I actually have, so it may come more sooner than later, but it will come at the appropriate time. So that's the big goal, is in the next 2 years to duplicate myself so that I'd have more than one financial coach working in personal financial strategy.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, this has been such a fun conversation so far. Now I want to get into it's called our rapid fire questions,
Okay.
where I ask you 4 questions and you answer very top of mind.
Okay.
All right. Question number 1 is what is a key to success for you?
Um, the key to success, I believe the key to success for me is the same thing I tell my clients, which is consistency. Consistency in my life experience pays off. Um, to and not necessarily speed, but um, doing the right things often enough will produce the right results. So I think consistency is my keystone.
That's such a good one. That's one of mine as well. So I love that.
Mhm.
Number 2 is what is a piece of advice you have for other business owners?
A piece of advice. Um, I, it's difficult to throw one out, just blanket piece of advice, because every business owner is different. Um, right now, it, I, I think there's a question that needs to be answered. If the bulk of your business is going to and marketing is going to take place on the internet, I think a key piece of advice, if your answer to that is yes, then I think an important piece of advice would be get as smart as you can about the application of AI in your space.
That is so true. That's a big one. It's a hot topic right now for sure. Number 3 is what is a book or piece of content? It could be a podcast, anything that you've taken in most recently.
Let's see. Most recently, um, I listened. I listened to I listened to some of the political happenings in this country. And mostly because of my engagement with finance, and I'm always interested in economics and some of the things that are happening on the political front that impact economics and specifically impacts the population. So I'll listen to different media um, pundits that are trying to predict what's going to happen in the future of America with everything that's up in the air now, like tariffs and things like that. And I don't. I view it as more as of a hobby than actual applicable information that for my own business and my own life. But it is an area of high interest for me.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And our final question out of the rapid fire is, if you had a magic wand and you could rapidly improve one aspect of your business, what would it be?
I think just a second, rapidly improve. Well, I think I've already mentioned it, and that is I feel like my business is at a place where it needs to gain velocity. I think we've got a good system. I think it moves too slow. And so if I could turn up the heat, um, if I could add velocity to what we're doing, I think the outcomes would be more in line with what our goals and our aspirations are.
Well, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. That is a great goal. That is a um, great goal to have. And so before we get to our final question for today, how can people connect with you and your business online?
The easiest place is to go to the webpage, personalfinancialstrategy.com, or you can see my profile on LinkedIn as well. Just Tony King, Personal Financial Strategy.
Well, thank you so much, Tony. Now for our final question of the day, what is most inspiring to you today?
That's a difficult one to answer right now. What is most inspiring? I think I'm going to have to say I've been uh, pleasantly inspired by um, some of the needs that have been brought forward when in my own community when uh, people find out what I do, my skills um, and what we do for people has made its way into some places that I never expected, and it's made its way into places where we do pro bono work. We help people that locally here. We help a not for profit corporation called the House of Refuge, and they're what their the core is they're helping people to get off the street and establish themselves. They provide them housing first, and then a lot of coaching and mentoring next. And they've been able to pull me in, and I'm inspired by them. I'm inspired by what they're doing and the contribution that they're making to our community. And so I'm happy to donate services for their cause, and that's what's been most inspiring lately.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. That's inspiring to me. I love when people are helping each other. Thank you so much, Tony. This has been a great conversation. I've enjoyed having you on the show.
Thank you.